biorefinery frequently we use nowadays. First of all, we should know what is biomass. Many of us as a student are aware of biomass, and many of the students may not have much knowledge about the biomass. Biomass is nothing but organically derived materials, all photosynthetically derived material, either directly or indirectly. Any of the two. Maybe directly we can get the photosynthetic biomass material from the forest, agro residue, or from kitchen waste, anywhere that comes under biomass. Or the derived product, for example, dung, any type of dung, any type of biodegradable materials which produces waste material, all comes under biomass. Now, similar to petroleum crude oil, actually biomass has also carbon and hydrogen in it. Along with that, there is additional amount of oxygen in biomass, which is around 10 to 15% at the maximum. Whereas in hydrocarbon, actually oxygen percentage is very low, very low. So since there is carbon and hydrogen in biomass similar to petroleum crude oil or the coal, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So similar to petroleum crude oil, actually biomass has also carbon and hydrogen in it. So we can convert this carbon and hydrogen to useful fuels and chemical in the similar line of petroleum refining processes. But how and what are the technologies that we need to know? There are two main pathways through which we can convert the biomass to chemicals, materials, and biofuels. One is thermocatalytic transformation, in which we use either heat or we can use catalytic pathways for transformation of the biomass to chemical, material, and biofuel. At the same time, we can use biochemical transformation method, in which normally we use some of the bacteria, microbes, or organism for the degradation of the biomass to useful fuel, chemical, and materials. Now, if we can combine all the three material that we have derived from the biomass, three means not the only three. In chemicals, we may have 4 numbers. In materials, we may have 2 numbers. In biofuel also, we may have 1 or 2 numbers. But in this case, biofuel must be in bulk quantity. Chemical and materials may be in low volume or low weight, but they will have additive or addition in the value of the entire chain of the production. Then we can integrate all the processes to make biomass into a biorefinery. Because analogous term of petroleum refinery, in petroleum refinery, our feedstock instead of biomass is crude oil. Then by using fractional distillation, atmospheric distillation, vacuum distillation, and flash distillation, we can recover fuels in large quantity and several varieties of chemicals and materials in low quantity but highly value added. So that way we integrate the processes in biomass also to establish a biorefinery. So what biorefinery? I think for all of you now it is clear. Biorefinery is nothing but an analogous term of petroleum refinery, in which biomass material is thermochemically or biochemically converted to chemicals, materials, and biofuels. Biofuels must be in larger amount or more in quantity. Chemicals and materials may be lesser in quantity, but we must have value addition out of that. So this is actually the future of our renewable energy prospect also, because in the years to come, now actually the dominating transportation fuel is liquid fuel. But the years to come, after 20 years, the era will change and it will shift to hydrogen fuel economy. So definitely biomass has the role to play vitally in the production of even hydrogen. So for the next era, biorefinery concept will be more and more beneficial. Yes.
Ramada,
Yes.
just a minute. Actually, your slideshow is not coming. So what
Now,
you can do, your slideshow is not coming in the presentation. So what you can do, you can accept slideshow. You can go for the, in the bottom there is 3-4 buttons. One is slideshow, then another one is book light. If you click the book, then it will be better.
This one?
In the bottom, I'll share it. My one. So
now?
No. Actually, you shared the slide and you are showing the slide, but you are not showing actually sharing the slideshow.
Okay, I am sending you in email.
Yeah, that you can do.
Then you can share.
And share to email
আপনি হেৰি কৰিলে ভাল হ'ব জাষ্ট টাইপ সৰি মই কি শো কৰিব নোৱাৰিম না
তুমি নহলে তাই কোৱা যে তলত যোৱা
না আপুনি তলত যাওকচোন তলত আপোনাৰ এটা আছে স্লাইড শো অপচন স্লাইড শো যদি তলত যায় এটা স্লাইড শো বুলি আছে আৰু কাষত এটা বুক বুলি এটা আছে বুক টাইপৰ বুক কি বুলি কয় এক্সাক্টলি ৰবচোন
ৰিডিং ভিউ
ৰিডিং ভিউ হেতুত আপুনি ক্লিক কৰি দিয়ক দিলে তেতিয়া পিছত আপুনি স্লাইডটো শেয়াৰ কৰি দিলে তো উইদাউট এনি প্ৰবলেম দেখাই থাকিব
and so
reading view বুলি যিটো আছে
and so then again present now shared
এতিয়া আপুনি ৰিডিং ভিউটো ক্লিক কৰক
now is it okay?
it is okay একদম বঢ়িয়া আছে
So I have already explained this slide.
Okay.
I have already explained this slide.
Okay, you may carry on.
Okay. Now, if we consider the whole biomass material, lignocellulosic biomass material, why lignocellulosic term we use? Because biomass normally has cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin, the main constituent. Apart from this, biomass has extractive, then lipid content in it. But since these are the major constituents, so most of the biomass materials are regarded as lignocellulosic biomass material. If it is not lignocellulosic, we can tell some food waste or other edible vegetable waste, like that where we classify. But since the actual biomass that we harvest from forest or from agricultural residue has the lignin, cellulose, and hemicellulose major constituent, so these are called lignocellulosic biomass material. Now, from one single biomass material, we can get about 15 to 20% lignin, then 26 to 30% hemicellulose. These are just rough percentage. It is not the accurate one because biomass to biomass, the percentage of lignin, cellulose, and hemicellulose percentage vary. So cellulose 40 to 50%. Now, if we want all the components to be separated, there is easy procedure for separating this lignin, hemicellulose, and cellulose by using scientific methods. So after extraction of the different components, if we want to convert this into useful fuel and chemical, what are the pathways that I am just highlighting? We can get syringic acid from lignin, we can get vanillin, we can get syringic aldehyde, syringaldehyde. From hemicellulose, we can get xylitol, we can get ethanol. From cellulose also we can get ethanol, and this is actually major fuel constituent. All these 3 or 4 that I have shown, all these are value additive chemicals, biochemicals. Similarly, from hemicellulose we can get biogas. From cellulose also we can get biogas, bioethane, and biohydrogen we can produce from these, depending upon the type of the microbes that we use for the degradation process. And from there we can recover bio-CNG. Somebody says bio-CNG, somebody says bio-CBG, and somebody says hydrogen-rich biogas or HCNG. And apart from that, we can get biofertilizer out of the digested slurry of the biomass material. In addition to that, what other chemicals we can recover from there are also R&D topic. Here, just I want to mention in one sentence, there is actually paddy straw based biogas production plant here in Fazilka, Punjab. They have 1 megawatt electricity generation capacity from the biogas. They utilize the methane, biomethane, 65% methane for the production of electricity by steam generation method. But the other constituent, what they recover, if you look, then they are getting more value out of the other product that they have generated. It is a paddy straw based biogas production center, but they are producing first one biofertilizer in which they have added some activated carbon, activated charcoal, and then some of the oil cake derived from Karanja. And that biofertilizer is 5 times better than NDP as they have stated. They have sulfur dioxide recovery unit, hydrogen sulfide recovery unit in which they produce sulfuric acid from the residual slurry that has been generated as waste stream after the washing of the biogas or biomass slurry. So they have sulfuric acid production set up also. That means they are getting biogas as one component, then that is the bulk quantity fuel, then they are getting organic fertilizer in terms of digested slurry and its development. At the same time, they are getting some chemicals. So perfectly, actually, they have set up a biorefinery. But I asked that person, actually the owner is from my district here from Kapurthala. I asked that person why you have not mentioned your setup as biorefinery. He straightforward, he replied that actually my objective was to completely utilize the organic residue into production of biofuel and biofertilizer to develop the agriculture only. That's why he gave the name of his company as Sampurna Agri. Sampurna Agri. He has not given the name biorefinery. But that is the perfect example of a biorefinery setup that is being established in the state of Punjab. Now, if we look the components of oil seed, which is one of our target everywhere nowadays to produce biofuel, then also same concept can be utilized. How we can do that? First, actually, all the oil seeds we need to know. What are the components available with the oil seed that we need to know? What is the percentage of lignocellulosic biomass present in the oil seed? That also we must know. If we look rapeseed oil, then the lignocellulosic constituent on that rapeseed oil will be very low. But if we look an oil seed like Mesoaperia or Nahar oil that is available in Northeast India, or Karanja oil, then if we look the oil seed constituent, we can find that about 60% of the oil seed is lignocellulosic biomass. Only 40% is the oil kernel, from where we can recover up to a maximum of, if we say 70% of oil. But you see, what is the actual contribution in oil? Maybe less than 15% from the entire oil seed. From the oil kernel, we are getting 70%, but as a whole, we can get less than 15 to 20% oil from an oil seed. So other component is lignocellulosic biomass. So that lignocellulosic biomass can be combusted in furnace after pelletization or briquetting. In direct combustion process, we can go for power generation, or we can go for gasification by making chips out of that. So lignocellulosic constituent can give us the direct energy conversion from oil seed. Now left is kernel. From the kernel, by using oil expeller, we can recover the oil. We can produce biodiesel. We can produce hydrocracking bio-crude oil from oil or the lipid. That can be further distilled to produce either biodiesel, biogasoline, biopetrol, biokerosene, bio-ATF, or green diesel. The other constituent, if we go for transacidification process, we can get the glycerol, and from glycerol, several varieties of derivatives can be obtained. So, from the entire oil seed, we have set up first power generation unit, then we can get liquid fuel. Now the de-oil cake is left on. De-oil cake can have two utilities. We can go for anaerobic digestion to produce biogas. We can go for fermentation, then we can get bioethanol. That means huge quantity of fuel we are getting energy, we are getting derivative products and liquid products out of the entire oil seed. That means from the whole oil seed, if we think as a whole, then there is a very good potential or possibility for setting up biorefinery. Now in this slide, I am showing you actually why we go for production of biofuel when there is petroleum diesel available, and what is the possibility of utilizing different fractions of the biofuel in petroleum distillates. Although we know that in any of the fuels, several fuel properties are required to be evaluated by using either ASTM procedure, Institute of Petroleum procedure, European Union procedure, or so many. As far as concerned, even BIS is also available. So there are so many standards to evaluate the fuel properties. But the main fuel property that determine whether a particular component of the biofuel can be used for a particular setup of engine or not is the boiling point or volatility range. Please do remember. Actually, why we blend biodiesel with petroleum diesel? Because petroleum diesel has a boiling range of 140 to 370 degrees centigrade, while biodiesel has a boiling range from 180 up to 360 or 70 degrees centigrade. That means both can be easily blended. But another property which we need to know is whether they are properly mixing or not, or they are producing a homogeneous mixture or not. If these two properties is known to you, then definitely you can go for blending any of the biologically derived fuel fraction with the fraction that is obtained from petroleum fraction. Now you can definitely ask me one question. When we go for bioethanol, its boiling point is around 78 to 79 degrees centigrade. Now with which fraction we can blend it? Definitely up to high percentage we can blend it with gasoline or petrol fraction, because petrol fraction has the boiling range from 40 to 140 degrees centigrade, whereas this is 78. So these are easily blendable, but we must know whether it is mixing with that petroleum fraction or not. Definitely it is miscible, so we can blend ethanol up to a very high percentage with gasoline. Now look at butanol. Butanol has a boiling point of 117 to 18 degrees centigrade, whereas gasoline fraction has the boiling range 40 to 140. Similarly, ATF, aviation turbine fuel, has the boiling range from 150 up to 260 degrees centigrade. So butanol can be a blending agent for even ATF, gasoline, or even sometimes at low fraction or low percentage with petroleum, diesel also. So these two properties must be known. Of course, we need to know what is its calorific value or heating value. Definitely, biofuel has little bit lower calorific value as compared to petroleum fractions. But since they have the better calorific value than any of the other solvent, so these are easily miscible or these are easily blendable with petroleum fractions of different petroleum derivatives. Now the green diesel. What is green diesel? Green diesel is a distillate fraction from the biocrude. If we distill the biocrude, we can get green gasoline, green ATF, then green diesel fraction from temperature 180 up to 370 degrees centigrade. That green diesel is actually super blender with petrodiesel because its cetane number is about 85 and near about 95 sometimes. That means 85 to 95 cetane is there with green diesel. So it is easily blendable with either biodiesel or with petroleum diesel. And if we can use small percentage or fraction, for example, 5%, 10% like that, then that can be a cetane improver also. So that way we should look what is the volatility range of a particular fuel and in which engine we can use it after proper blending or alone. So volatility is one of the important property in any of the fuel for further consideration for blending. Now a new R&D topic is ethoxyethane, methoxymethane, all these compounds which has actually volatility or boiling range lower than 0 degrees centigrade. So for those compounds actually cryogenic engines or cryogenic operations are normally required. So for this we need appropriate infrastructure for doing the R&D activities. But definitely all those biogasoline, biokerosene, bio-ATF, green diesel or biodiesel, all these have the good potential to substitute as a petroleum fuel. Excuse me, sir. So now actually my topic was on confines and prospects of biorefinery in India. Now I am giving you just some introduction about fuels, chemicals and materials, how we can get out of some of the lignocellulosic biomass material in just simple introductory terms. But we should know the actual potential of biomass that is available in the country in order to come to my entire topic. If we think about rice or paddy straw, then many times we get the news that in the area of Delhi, Haryana, Punjab, there is stubble burning during the season, October, November, every year, and there is huge fog coverage in the entire area for which entire mobility is disturbed. Even inhaling also has the disturbances. So that thrust area here in this particular region is proper utilization of the paddy straw for power generation or biofuel application. Now, what is the actual potential of paddy straw in the country? That we need to know. Here in this figure, first figure, if you look, actually this data has been collected from a very recently made collection by the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, yet to be published. Maybe in the coming month it will be published online in MNRE website, but I got the report. That's why actually I am showing you. Here you see dark blue portion in this figure shows the highest potential of paddy straw availability in the country. And here in this, Punjab is coming at the topmost level. And then next blue is taking the second place, where the state of Haryana, then MP, all the southern states, all the southern states which are having seashore area, actually where there is maximum paddy cultivation, there is the potential for paddy straw maximum. And this blue portion like Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, West Bengal, little bit in Assam, and these states, Tamil Nadu, not this Tamil Nadu, after Maharashtra, Karnataka, and this Andhra Pradesh, both these states has also the potential of paddy straw. But the maximum potential that is available here in the state of Punjab for paddy straw. Also, the exact figure at the end. So just I am highlighting here in the figures, and accordingly, which straw is available maximum there in the state of Uttar Pradesh. If we look the potential of maize stalk, corn, then the state of Maharashtra is taking the lead, along with the state of MP is taking the lead, along with southern states, some of the southern states, and here in Bihar also maize stock is available. At the same time, little bit availability is there in the state of West Bengal. In terms of potato waste or potato agro residue, if we look, then also the state of Gujarat, Uttar Pradesh, then Bihar is leading just after West Bengal. That means West Bengal at the top in case of potato residue. So if we look cotton stock, then also Maharashtra is leading along with Gujarat and little bit there in the state of Rajasthan, and this is Haryana. So other cereals, if we look, then Uttar Pradesh and MP along with Punjab, we have the potential for other cereal agro residue. Now if we look the pulses, then also state of only Maharashtra is leading after Gujarat and Uttar Pradesh. Then here in this, the red portion is showing us oilseed potential, for which we normally go for biodiesel and all other activities we propose, but the potential is very low if we can, if you want to see. Here the state of Gujarat has oilseed production. At the same time, Tamil Nadu and Karnataka state, they have the oilseed availability along with Telangana states. All these states has little bit potential. Similarly, UP and MP has also the potential along with West Bengal and Haryana. Now, exclusively, if we look the potential, actually this is the exact amount of agro residue that is available for power production in our country as of now. Around 20% from paddy or rice straw or rice husk. Cotton 19.65, wheat 15.84, maize stock 6.24, maize 6.24, potato 5.68, coconut 4.11, banana 3.39, sugarcane 3.05, other oilseeds 2.39, arhar, tur, castor, etc. All these has around total 3%. That means oilseed has only 2.5% maximum potential, whereas coconut has also little bit contribution, 4%. But this oil will not be sufficient to produce the entire amount of liquid fuel that we need in the country as of now, as a substitute of petroleum fuels. So we need to go for production of rice straw based biofuel, cotton stalk based biofuel, wheat straw based biofuel, or maize stalk based biofuel, because this has the highest amount of potential as far as agro residue is concerned. And if we want to know that we have some forest reserve also, so can we use those? No, because we do not have sufficient forest reserve to accommodate the greenery requirement of our country, we have at the maximum 24% forest coverage throughout the country. But we need at least 33% forest coverage for greenery existence. So we cannot use the actual forest for biopower development, but only the residual part we can use out of that, which contribute around 14% or 15% in the entire contribution. Now, if we look the potential of surplus biomass in terms of state, then here the leading state is Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, Karnataka, then the state of Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, little bit, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, and West Bengal. Only these are the major states from which we can get most of the agro residue. Now, if we want to know in which state which agro residue is available, we have already shown here in this, in the entire picture. So from this, we can come to a small conclusion that in the state of Punjab, if we look, we can use only paddy straw mostly and some of the maize stalk and pulses stalk for production of biofuel. Then if we look the state of Maharashtra, then we can get sufficient amount of sugarcane based residue, that means bagasse and other crops little bit. So in the state of Maharashtra, we have some amount of agro residue that can be properly utilized for production of biofuel. Similarly, in the state of Madhya Pradesh, the same potential is available. Also in the state of Gujarat, little bit surplus biomass is available in the in terms of pulses, cotton stalk and maize stalk not available, cotton stalk and oil seeds in the state of Gujarat. So like that way, if we localize the biomass for every state, then we can identify which biomass has higher potential in which of the state. And accordingly, we can plan for setting up power generation unit or biofuel generation unit. Now again, there will be competition between the two. For which pathway we will go? We will go for biomass to power or biomass to biofuel. Because technological advancement, if we look, then for biofuel production, particularly from lignocellulosic biomass, if we want to convert it completely into biofuel, then actually technological advancement is not very much or not measured in our country indigenously, even today. But if we go for anaerobic digestion or biogas production from agro residue, then technology is not very much complex. We need to just segregate the microbes for digestion of that particular biomass, and we can go for anaerobic digestion. And if we want to know about the biopower, which is actually hugely exploited throughout the country now, biopower is readily available technology because you can go for pelletization, you can go for wood chipping, or you can go for briquetting. Then you can make required fuel block for combustion purposes. So the easiest process is combustion process to produce the biopower. And that is the reason why our country has 10 gigawatt electricity production from biomass as of now. 10 gigawatt was the target for 2021, and it has already been achieved from biopower. And most of the biopower that is developed in the country from the cogeneration power plant that is established nearby sugarcane industry. But all other biomass are yet to be properly exploited. For example, paddy straw, surplus wheat straw, or maize straw. These are yet to be exploited. But the Government of India has taken the initiative that we will we will set up biomass pelletization and briquetting plant throughout the country, and the mandate has been given to the NTPC so that they can blend at least 10% of their coal requirement with biofuel blocks. Biofuel blocks means it is charcoal, pellets, or briquette or wood chips, whatever they want to use. But mostly they are going for now pelletization plants. So that way, actually, biopower is already a developed technology in the country. While the others, for example, biofuel and derivation of chemicals from biofuels, all those are even today not properly matured technology. There is only one industry in terms of biorefinery, is the Praj industry, where they have set up a bioethanol production plant in Pune. So there is no other setup yet been implemented for in terms of biorefinery. Although NRL is establishing bamboo-based bioethanol production facility, but it is yet to be operated, properly installed, I think. So if we look the potential of the biomass material as of now, in 2020, actually we have about 700 million tons of agro residue as surplus agro residue, of which only this red portion, if you look in the figure, are surplus biomass for biofuel application, which is less than 20% in the entire biofuel chain that we develop. And the target of the government of India in this aspect is, earlier it was by 2030, government of India targeted to blend 20% ethanol with petroleum gasoline or in gasoline engine, and 5% biodiesel blending. By 2030, earlier the target was, but very recently, 1 month ago, actually they already pre-revised the target that by 2024 we shall try to achieve this target. But there is different constraint which will hamper in achieving this target. First one is the feedstock availability or the bioresources availability in the country. Our target is big, but even if we can achieve at least 10% blending of overall biofuel in the petroleum fuel, then also I think we will be hugely successful. So all those constraints I'll explain. Now in terms of actually million tons of biofuel production potential, if we look, then entire world is developing day by day in biofuel production. But in our country, if we look, till today, although government has made a mandatory blending of 5% bioethanol with petroleum gasoline, but only 3% is the practical implementation if we look the averages of all the states. Number two, in terms of biodiesel, government targeted earlier by 2021, we will supplement at least 10% biodiesel. Earlier it was 20%, then came to 10% biodiesel with petroleum diesel, but even today it is less than 1% substitution. So the constraint is very clear. Number one, we don't have potential resources for the production of the biofuel as per our requirement. Number two, technological advancement in entire value chain of the biofuel production, we are still lagging. Now, if we consider the special case of biorefinery setup in the state of Northeast India, actually this proposal I sent to this current government 3 years back, that you can go for Meswaferia oilseed based biorefinery in the state of Assam as the first biorefinery from vegetable oilseed. But I don't know why they did not so much interest, because I think resource collection or availability will be a factor. I have shown them the entire details in entire perspective, what could be the possible ways how they can collect the entire potential resources that is already available in the state for setting up, but still they have not shown the interest. I think Tezpur University can lead in this matter because the biofuel group in Tezpur University is one of the leading in the country, if you look the publication or every aspect. So you can lead this matter. But I have already sent the proposal to the government directly, so that at least they can give some attention. They are going for establishing some energy park in the Guwahati city. I told them that at least the biomass resources that is available in the state should be considered within your energy park or biopark, so that all the energy bearing trees are planted properly. But I don't know what was the outcome of the suggestion. I did not get any reply out of them. Now, these are some of the biorefinery setup that are available in the world. In India, I have already mentioned you, only one setup is there in the state of Maharashtra in Pune, and they are using mostly lignocellulosic grass-based biomass for producing bioethanol out of that. Now, these are the actual pathways through which we can think of R&D and developing different products from biomass to set up the biorefinery network. Thermal and mechanical pretreatment, thermal treatment, then pyrolysis, gasification, and then is the burning in direct furnaces, that means for production of power. So out of this, if we look, all the constituent of the biomass can be converted to value additive fuels or some value addition chemicals along with heat, power and electricity. That means from the perspective of biomass, these entire value additive fuels, biodiesel, biopolymers, acetic acid, ethanol, butanol, acetone, hydrogen, polyaromatic hydrocarbons, cellulose, chemicals, liquid fuels, and heat and power, all these can be developed. So different pathways are required for conversion of this biomass into biorefinery network. Now, from this discussion, it is very clear to us that in developing a biorefinery network, we need first a platform, we need to know the products, we need to know what is our feedstock, then we need the proper processes with the help of which we can establish the biorefinery network. Now, in order to analyze the possible integration of biorefinery in the existing industrial infrastructure, here I would like to mention what is the existing industrial infrastructure. Actually, in the country, we have sufficient petroleum distillation facility. We have 22 petroleum refineries throughout the country, which has all the facilities for conversion of petroleum crude oil to different fuel fractions or value additive chemicals. Now, if we think of liquid fuel based processing, that means either used cooking oil or any of the non-edible vegetable oil we can use for production of biocrude, which has similar properties to that of petroleum crude oil. So we can use the existing infrastructure in petroleum refinery for setting up the biorefinery network. That means we need not require any additional technology or additional technological advancement for setting up such biorefinery if we think only liquid fuel perspective. But if we think for biogas generation, bio-CBG, bio-CNG or biohydrogen generation from biomass, then definitely we have to set up the anaerobic digestion chamber, for which also technology is not very much complicated. And already there are several infrastructure in the country that we already have, and we can just duplicate it in other portion. So we can set up for production of biogas or like this. For bioethanol production, there is some technical hurdles because most of the technologies that the companies are using, for example, Praj Industries or even the Numaligarh refinery, they are using bioethanol production facility from bamboo. All are imported technology. So duplication may not be possible. Those are patented technology. So we have to acquire it first. Then we have to go for establishing the biorefinery network. So in terms of all these factors, if we look, then the highest attributes or the trust we should give is in feedstock and product. What are the actual amount of feedstock available with us for production of the biofuel or bioenergy? And what are the products that we can develop out of it? That means these two is getting the highest priority, platform is getting the second priority, and the processes, which process we'll adopt, whether we will go for hydro processing technology, whether we will go for anaerobic digestion technology, whether we will go for fermentation technology, that is getting least importance as compared to the other three. So if we have proper feedstock, if we have planning, and if we know the targeted products that we can develop from a biorefinery network, definitely with a particular feedstock in a particular location where the feedstock will be readily available, because we have to look the energy management perspective also here, because if the feedstock is away from the source, setup that has been established for biorefinery network, it is very far, then definitely the economy will not come. So we have to look the availability of the feedstock in a particular region. So all those factors takes part in biorefinery setup. Now from entire discussion, we find out all these findings. In the current rate of production, the surplus biomass resources available in the country is about 660 million tons, which is equivalent to 700 MMT, which is projected to increase by 850 MMT in the year 2030. Now, one question you can ask me here, why I am targeting only 2030? Why it is not projected up to higher range? Because actually the major oilseed or major agro-residue production state has the scarcity of water also. And the water scarcity is nowadays emerging as one of the major problems in this state, particularly Haryana, Punjab, Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, all these. And the water level is going down and down. That is one of the reasons why we have taken the target up to 2030. After that, maybe there will be some restriction in the production of even paddy in the field, because it is presumed that most of the water requirement in the cultivation actually are taken by the production of rice, by the paddy. So there will be a peak point of the agro-residue production in the country by 2030. There may be a possibility. And in this regard, actually, we are doing some software-based R&D in collaboration with United States Sales Group, and they are projecting these things. Frequently, we hold a meeting with them quarterly. So they are saying these things. At the same time, the government of Punjab is looking after this issue that we may have some restriction in the coming years for production of paddy at large scale. So agro-residue, as we are thinking that it will grow up day by day with the increase of or explosion of population, it is not so, because land availability is also an issue at the same time of water. So 850 million tons can be achieved by 2030, but our population will also increase so much that even electricity generation capacity from biomass should also increase even up to 20 gigawatt. Now it is 10 gigawatt, but it should increase another fold. That means it should be double. Now, recently, Government of India has declared the 20% ethanol blending in gasoline by 2024, 10% biodiesel substitution in diesel. In order to achieve this target, sugarcane molasses, sugarcane bagasse, lignocellulosic biomass such as rice straw, maize, grass, etc. may be used. which constitute about 20% of the surplus biomass. Then second generation ethanol from lignocellulosic biomass, such as paddy straw, is still in an infant stage due to not very encouraging economical process technology. Actually, even in our laboratory, there are R&D works ongoing on this 2G ethanol technology, but all the microbes or all the enzymes that we derive are not equally efficient for conversion of the lignocellulosic biomass to ethanol. So there is some limitations. Sometimes psychophilic or low temperature, sometimes thermophilic bacteria or enzymes are required for this technology. So entire thing needs R&D also. While paddy straw-based CBG plants are relatively highly favorable due to successful operation of several biogas plants in the country. And there is a competition of the technology, as I have already mentioned, that ethanol is competed by CBG plants because the technology is readily available. Biogas can be easily cleaned up and can be easily transported also, can be stored, compressed, and can be used as a substitute of gasoline in engine. So there will always be a competition between the two. And you may be glad to know that the state of Punjab will establish about 6 such CBG plant, 2 megawatt power capacity equivalent CBG plant for biogas generation for transportation sector, and 64 such plants are coming in the state of Haryana. And all these initiative has taken by the Ministry of Petroleum. So I think they will be successful in the coming years. So availability of mesophilic thermophilic consortium, additional technology for conversion of digested slurry to organic fertilizer and byproducts such as SO2 conversion to H2SO4 or hydrogen sulfide conversion to H2SO4, and all those additives and the biofertilizer factor can also help in the establishment of biorefinery in terms of biogas or biomethane production as compared to bioethanol production. In the area of biodiesel or green diesel substitution from non-edible vegetable oil or used cooking oil, there is an ambitious target, although resources are very limited as of now. Actually, we estimated these things also. If we look the actual resource availability, then only 10 to 20 million tons of oil can be made available if we can gather the entire used cooking oil or the non-edible vegetable oil in the country. But this amount will not be sufficient to substitute 10% of petrodiesel or petrochemicals from vegetable oil. Thus, the concept of whole oilseed conversion to biofuel materials and energy may be more appropriate in a biorefinery. That is the reason why I have shown that all the processes must be integrated to set up a well-established biorefinery in the country. It will be definitely a boost to the technology utilization if the catalysts used for such processes are also biomass derived. Because you see, in all those conversion technology from vegetable oil or any of the biomass material, conversion to fuel, chemicals, value additive products, actually we need some catalytic pathway or catalytic reactions. If we can develop such technology indigenously from the biomass material itself, then that will again be a boost. Similarly, the byproduct that is developed from different processes, for example, crude glycerol that is being developed from used cooking oil or non-edible vegetable oil can be converted to many other chemicals and value-added products. Then the entire process will be a green technology. So those processes, technology must be integrated to set up a established biorefinery in the country. Now, if you look the particular case of Jatropha carcass, which was a mandate of the government of India long back, then you can look average oil extracted from a Jatropha carcass seed is 38%, whereas oil extracted generates 2.3 tons of seed cake. Total lignocellulosic composition obtained from such raw seed is 50.92%, around 51%. 28 ml of ethanol can be extracted from 100 gram of D-oil Jatropha cake. Then D-oil cake has about 5 to 15% unextracted oil that has positive impact upon again biogas production. So Jatropha seed cake could yield 355 liters of biogas per kg of cake. 1 hectare of Jatropha carcass plantation in an average produces this metric ton 3.75 metric tons of seeds, potentially yielding 1.2 metric tons of oil. So like this, where if we look the entire economy, then entire material that we derive from biomass should have been used for proper utilization to set up a biorefinery network. Same potential is available with algae. I think R&D work is going on at Tezpur University also. From actually whole algae, we can convert the algae into different fuel fractions by using hydrothermal liquefaction technique. We need not have to go for transesterification process because the algal oil is not a good quality oil if you look its density, pour point and all those properties. So we can go direct hydroliquefaction of the algae. Then we can produce all the biofuel fraction, or we can go for even algae fermentation process to produce butanol. So from algae also there is the scope, but again the thing is in focus because from algae itself we may not be able to set up the biorefinery because the production facility for algae is not available throughout the country, because water scarcity is there in many of the parts where there is land availability. So algae production is another obstacle. But if we can use the saline water, for example, if we can use the seashore area for algae cultivation in saline water, which can yield high oil yielding algae, then we can go for such type of biorefinery also. Similarly, rice straw. Rice as a whole, rice can be used as a product for biorefinery setup because rice itself is our edible product. Then rice bran oil can be used. Then all those can produce your food material. Whereas biogas solid fuel process, it can be generated from the rice straw, rice husk. Apart from that, rice straw can be used for production of biogas or many other chemicals. So rice-based biorefinery setup is also a possibility. Now, in any such type of setup, we need first to know what is the feedstock available, what are the technology available, and what are the chemicals that we can develop from that particular processes. At the same time, we need the characterization facility for the fuel and the chemical that is produced from that particular setup. But luckily,
Anil, can you summarize within 10 minutes?
Yes, I'll summarize in 2 minutes.
Okay.
So for all those activities, we have the entire setup for setting up the biorefinery plants because we already have the refinery setup in the country. So testing facilities are readily available in the country. These are some of the products that we have developed at our lab. Exactly similar to petroleum hydrocarbons. Actually, materials are looking like duplication in Tezpur University long back during the presence of my guide, Professor Kaur, but the technology that we have developed here is actually not the same because we went for hydroprocessing technology and our technology is little bit more compact and better actually systematic. So thank you all. This type of biorefinery setup we expect in near future to come in the country. At the same time, maybe throughout the globe, that biorefinery setup will substitute petroleum refinery, because although I have not mentioned properly here biohydrogen part, biohydrogen will be the future fuels for entire activity, maybe in the years to come in 30 years. How we can generate the biohydrogen? there are several techniques. One is from biomass gasification, from the separation of the hydrogen from producer gas or syngas. If we can separate, and if we get a Fischer-Tropsch synthesis process, then we can get higher hydrocarbons along with hydrogens. So those hydrogen can be a substitute in future. There are already advanced technology for hydrogen production from methane or natural gas. So hydrogen will be the future fuel for future economy, and their activity may require the support from the biomass integration in biorefinery mode. So my last words are that have faith in your own ability and work. The Almighty helps all of us to reach the destination. Thank you.